Very excited about this. So. Good. Well, now it's afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. It's so great to see you all in 2025. For some reason, the 2 weeks that NCHL had off flew by, but that's okay. We're back in action and we're gearing up for our April summit, which is going to be very exciting. It'll be the first time that we have two separate events in 2025. And looking forward to opening the call for content tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday already. So be on the lookout for some information around that. We'll be taking submissions for leadership development, well-being, looking at environmental sustainability and TMAP, right, Malia? I think I got those all down. Memorized now. But other than that, for 2025, we're still working also on our November event, but more to come on that as we progress throughout the year. I'm not ready to think about November quite yet. But we did change the format for our agendas for 2025, so I'll put a link in the chat, but it's also in the calendar invitation. So hopefully it's a little more, little easier to navigate and keep track of as we progress throughout the year. As always, if there's different topics or things that we'd like to explore as a group, would love to consider speaking opportunities for any of you on any of these future calls as Jessica and I plan out the year. We always appreciate eager folks to participate. But other than that, Malia is in 2025 taking a bit of an increased role in the Lens community. She is overseeing and serving as lead for our Wellbeing Council. Since we will now have 8 councils, we're kind of divvying up the work, and she's helping me take on a lot of those tasks. So she'll be helping, as she is always, with notes and things like that for this council, but taking on some of our other councils in a more of a facilitator role. So excited to continue to have her on board and to help us as we transition into all the new things that we're doing in 2025. Um, Coaching, I'll mention. It looks like our coaching cohort is almost full already. I haven't even had a chance to talk about it for this year, and it looks like folks are just chomping at the bit for the opportunity. But we'll still send around information, and DJ is considering a second smaller program to include anyone else that wants to be included in a cohort for this year. We also have the Bridge to PCC, but that will start, I believe, next week. So that's the level 2 folks. And then we have a leader as a coach opportunity that'll be new for this year. It'll be a 7-week opportunity to kind of just dip your toes into coaching. And that'll be for anyone from fellow administrative fellowship all the way up through the C-suite. So kind of a intro to coaching. And we're looking at sometime in August or September for that. But once those dates are finalized, we'll get that all out to you all so we can get you registered if that's of interest. Anything that anyone has questions on? I mentioned. And all this will come in email too.
I do have a question, Jen, about coaching overall.
Yeah.
Martina is an ICF certified coach, and I'm on my journey to aspire to get there. But I'm curious too, does NCHL do any continuing education for coaches?
That could be, and that's something that we've talked about with DJ, is ways that we can, beyond just the certification, what else can we do? So lots of opportunity there. I'm glad someone mentioned it because that means there's interest. So as we get Mindy more involved in a lot of our planning, and she's chomping at the bit to get acclimated to the program, she has a lot of ideas to expand that as well. So there's definitely room for that. And in this, even if not this year, definitely 26.
That's awesome. And I think I would venture between those who have participated in the coaching cohorts through NCHL and then also a number of us who may have done other programs too, there would probably be a fair amount of interest. So just
Yeah.
curious about that. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll echo the interest. I was actually going to pose kind of a similar question. I am renewing my PCC for the first time, and this time it has come a lot harder to find CEUs or CCEs rather for my PCC renew. And so if there's something that we can look at in the future in terms of just community and support in that way, that I think that would be very helpful.
Great to know. I just met with DJ this morning, so it's top of mind. Perfect. Any other questions? If not, I will hand it over to Robin, who'll be presenting today. Was brought up on a topic on our last call, so excited to have this kind of resurface and talk about competency work a bit.
All right. So
I think you're muted again, Robin.
I am muted. Thank you. I recognize that if I accidentally hit the enter button on my 10 keypad, that it mutes me in Zoom. Like that was that's good to know. I didn't know Zoom would do that. So full transparency, we have not transitioned fully to our roles yet. So we've transitioned from a competency model to leadership behaviors to roles. So I don't have a really great, awesome Marcom marketing communication authorized graphic, but I'll show you what we have in our journey so far if this is useful for you. Let me just share my screen here. So we did start out, so our journey has been, we have started with a competency model, and this competency model was there were 12 elements of our competency model. Every level of leader were to have these things so that they could look at them. And it just got too complex for us. So back in 2016, we embarked on a 2-year journey to do research within our organization as what do truly successful leaders do here at Intermountain Health, where our competency model was, this is what we want you doing. We were pushing the information. This is what we want you to do at Intermountain. And we flipped that script. And this is where we now have our current leadership framework, which are leadership behaviors. And they are 4 overarching topics that are really, they're easier to understand and remember and do something about. So truly successful leaders from the front line all the way up to our ELT. I went through multiple iterations of naming and wording to ensure that it was clear and aligned across the organization. We are mission obsessed. You can ask anyone at Intermountain Health what our mission is, and everyone all the way down to our EVS workers to ELT can tell you our mission is helping people live the healthiest lives possible. It's easy to remember, and it doesn't take long for us to remember it. And we truly hire for this. Truly mission-centric people. So they are mission obsessed. We empower each other. And this comes from a lot of coaching language that we infuse throughout our organization. We see people as whole, resourceful, capable, and creative, and really approaching our caregivers. And we call them customers because patients aren't our only customer. However, that can rub healthcare workers wrong. It has. Our entire organization got us used to it. So I just use patients when we're talking nationally. We act with courage and we drive results. And so from this framework, we worked with DDI and we created what do these behaviors look like at the manager level, the director level, and the executive level. And we created assessments, 360 assessments around all of them. And so then our assessment strategy comes in as they come in to be either new leaders, new to Intermountain, or they're progressing to the next level of leadership. They take this 360 to identify, here are the things you're doing really well, and here are a couple of opportunities to strengthen as you're going through your leadership journey. And it's also the framework in which all of our content is built. So our programs at every level in the pipeline, our coursework, our Principles of Leadership pathway, it's all built on our leadership behaviors framework. So now here we are in 2025, and we've been looking at, is there something to update? We have merged and acquired a few organizations over the time. We've grown from 42,000 when this was stood up. We're now at 68,000 caregivers, and we have over 6,000 leaders across 9 states. And we just wanted to ensure that the leadership behaviors still fit the organization as we've grown and continue to mature as a larger health system. And something, it's kind of fascinating. I don't know if y'all ever run into this, but near the end of 2024, we reevaluate the behaviors every 3 years anyway, just to ensure we're on the right track and tweaking, and things are coming faster. We can't just do that. I mean, we had our competency model for 25 years, and we can no longer do that. It just doesn't fit as quickly as things are evolving in healthcare. So our Marcom, we call our marketing and communication department Marcom at Intermountain Health. And our Marcom people kind of raised their hand and said, okay, so we'll be reevaluating the leadership behaviors. And our chief learning officer said, wait a minute, you don't do that. That falls under leadership and learning. And so Robin's actually taking lead on this. And so as she'd been kind of mulling over this, and we had read a couple of articles that competencies have kind of gone the way of the dodo a little bit, and we're being more actionable language is emerging for leadership development in multiple different industries. And so we thought, well, what's easy for leaders to think about? How do I lead? Instead of even the word competency can sometimes be confusing, particularly to the managers. They can't quite wrap their head around what a competency is. However, this is what you do. What are action words that you can actually do that can help you understand how you actually lead at Intermountain Health? So we are evolving that into our leadership roles. And the roles that the basic roles all leaders do here at Intermountain is they serve, they align, they guide, and they empower. And it was just a happy circumstance that it spelled SAGE, because we thought, oh, we can do so much with this. And from colors to kind of that coaching mindset of being sages versus saboteurs with that positive intelligence. I don't know if any of you had an opportunity to take Shirzad Sharmin's course. It's actually free for all coaches on positive intelligence, and it's really great. So kind of those sage powers, or we thought this is kind of fun. And everyone we introduced this to, we've kind of been putting drops in the water throughout the organization. They can remember what sage means over time, even when we've just introduced it in a single conversation. We thought we need something that's going to stick, that's easy. When that manager is conversing with their caregiver and they need to be giving feedback, maybe they have a late issue and they need to have a difficult conversation. It's like, you are here with this caregiver first to serve, to align, to guide them and empower them. So basically what these mean: first, serve. Serve is aligned with servant leadership. And our new CEO, Rob Allen, who stepped in about 1.5 years ago, this is truly serving not only the caregiver. All employees are caregivers at Intermountain Health. Instead of employees, we say caregivers. So even if their customer base is internal facing to Intermountain Health, or it's our Select Health who serve members, we're still all considered caregivers, just to level set language. So it's both patient and caregivers we serve. And our CEO, there's a lot of servant leadership out there. And our CEO has set forth these 7 things that we do at Intermountain Health that serve. So this is what servant leadership looks like. So all of our servant leadership principles roll up to serve. And then the second is aligning. So we're truly aligning people to the mission, the vision, the values, aligning to be one Intermountain. It's very easy to get siloed in a complex matrix healthcare organization. And we truly want to continue to be aligned, not only up, but also vertically. Are we aligned to other organizations? Are we making sure other departments, making sure we're not doing shadow processes? Are we continuing to share best practices and ensure that we are aligned throughout the entire matrix? And then, and are we aligned to our values? Every one of our servant leadership, so our CEO, every one of his servant leadership elements aligns to our values, and our values were just updated as well. As we went through the merger, we kind of updated everything to bring unity together instead of adopting one or the other. The mission did stay the same. It did align across all regions, and our values just updated. So our servant leadership aligns with our values. And then a leader's guide here at Intermountain. We're future facing to be proactive versus constantly reacting, and guiding all caregivers to know what their jobs are, owning the message so that it's not creating an us versus them environment. We're guiding them. You know, there's elements of leadership where you do have to tell your caregivers what to do. Here are the safety measures. Here are the HIPAA laws. All of this rolls up under guiding, and making sure we have very clear communication as we're driving those results and meeting the business needs. And then we empower our caregivers to take the information and make it their own. And we see, and this is not only caregivers, but also broader. We would love anyone who's patient facing to even be empowering our patients or our health plan members to, here's the information. Now, what do you want to do with it? So again, this is that coaching mindset. The WRCC, we see everyone as whole, resourceful, capable, and creative. And that includes all of our patients. It's like, here are the options to help you be living your healthiest life. So now what works for you? Instead of constantly dictating, so now you have to rest, drink lots of liquids, stay immobilized, truly empowering. So this is language not only with each other, but also with our patients to empower everyone to be their best self. And so we're still in the process of, this is our idea, and then we haven't whittled this down yet of what this looks like from a manager, director, and executive level, which will be our next phases, and then upgrading all of our assessments, because as I'm sure you're aware, there's a big price tag that comes with that as well, and some time. This is the direction that we're going so far, just to help leaders it's more simple, streamlined, and then all of our work is just adjusting language. We don't have to throw everything out. It's just upgrading from what we already have, because our leadership behaviors very easily roll up to these as well. And so then just shifting language and mindsets to it helps our leaders know more of the actionable steps to take rather than kind of a theoretical idea of things is what we are working on. So what questions do you have for me?
That's such a great overview, Robin. Thank you for sharing all of that detail with us. And what a journey. And I think, certainly at UPMC, we understand that we've been a constantly kind of growing and evolving organization and bringing new entities in. And so I really love, especially hearing about how you've kind of honored that from some of those organizations as you've come together. So just lots of learnings for me to think about. And some of my curiosity, it maybe not even so much on the theory, but some of the logistics. I love the alignment to the levels of leadership, and then that related work that you did for 360 assessments. And my question is, does your function cover the cost of those related assessments for the organization, or does the cost center or budget of that respective area cover the cost of the assessment and any related development needs maybe that come out of it?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jessica. So we cover the cost when it's required by us. So as we require different 360s for every level of programming that we do when they come in for manager, director, and executive, we'll cover the cost and we'll roll it into our programming cost. Also, our Principles of Leadership Pathway, we used to require it at the end. The Principles of Leadership Pathway is it's a 12-month self-guided foundation. And then at the end, we were requiring the 360 at the end, depending on what level of leader, whether they were new to Intermountain and what level they were at. And then we shifted that just to save cost to now it's a gift. So if you would like it, then you can take it and we will cover the cost for that. If other departments say, hey, I have a leader who's been here for a while, they seem to be struggling with something, I think a 360 could be useful, so we could get some anonymous voice to give them, feedback that maybe won't be as scratchy, then they will cover the cost. So if it's a request of us, and we've negotiated with a lower cost. It's $165 to issue the per assessment. It was $150 for a long time. And then just this year they said, just with inflation, we can't cover our cost anymore. So now it's $165. So that's how we handle it.
Great. Thank you for that. Maybe another question, unless I don't want to cut anybody else off, but who all, and I heard you reference even specifically the CEO's involvement in some of determining, what does a really effective leader look like? Did you have other senior leaders or some type of steering committee that helped to identify? And sorry, I'm going to be the one to ask all the questions. But,
okay.
Sort of both that from like a leadership guiding steering committee, but then also I would love to hear more about how you researched with your actual leaders. What were they doing, beyond, I think that's where I think all of us get like over assessed and, we live and breathe it every day, but I'm so compelled by that. How did you really go out and research what made effective leaders at Intermountain, not just, based on the competency model per se?
Yeah. So we partnered with our analytics team and we put a small team together, and really helped our analytics team helped us guide it. And we used resources we already had. So our, we call it the voice survey now. It's our caregiver engagement survey. We've used different tools over the years. We're now using Qualtrics. And we have a leadership index embedded in our caregiver experience survey. And so that is where we got a lot of survey data. And then we were also collecting, we have awards that we give. What are the awards saying that caregivers are saying truly effective leaders do? And as they're giving accolades and praising people for it within our Kudo boards, we could pull the data on the back end with that. And AI has really helped us this year. 3 years ago that's why it took 2 years. Now it's probably only going to take like 6 months. And then also tapping into our Marcom group who write all the speeches for our ELT. It's what are the common themes that our ELT are saying leaders need to do. And then we also had focus groups so we pull people together across the organization and survey them through quantitative data, where we were gathering from them, what are your leaders doing? Because sometimes with the voice survey, if that's the only source of truth, there are some teams that have just been toxic for years, and it doesn't matter. The leader may be really good. It doesn't maybe matter what they're doing, or they're kind of in that beginning phases that they're trying to turn people around, but no matter what you do, they're not happy at the moment. So it's not our only source. It was a place to start. So the tier ones were like the exceptional leaders. Tier 2, tier 3 were kind of in trouble. So we would look at the tier 1. What were the tier 1 leaders doing? So gathering multiple data points this way helped us. And then as we brought these things together, and the 4 categories were emerging, then we were taking those back to additional focus groups and the higher level of leadership of here's what truly successful leaders do here at Intermountain Health. Now, how do you want this word how do you want this to resonate and wordsmith? And our Marcom group helped us wordsmith it. And then our ELT were the final buy off. They had to put their stamp of approval. It's like, yes, this is what we want our leaders doing. So it's multi-pronged. And we made sure that we covered every level of leader and then every category of leader as well. So physician and APP leadership, nursing, administration, techs. We wanted to be sure all regions and service lines were represented as well. So we encapsulated the entire view of the organization.
It's a lot of work. Thank you.
Yeah. Like 2 years.
2-year journey, and then you just plug that all into AI and it, right?
Right, exactly.
Thank goodness for AI though nowadays. It helps me every day.
I feel like we've evolved and become more sophisticated in our data, because now that this is always, we're mindful of it as we're moving forward. It's like in 3 years, we're going to want to reevaluate this. So how can we minimize the administrative burden on us and the organization and capture this information in ways using AI from these different sources that we're kind of keeping a running tally so it doesn't become this huge lift every 3 years. So we've evolved as well.
Wow, that's great. Thank you for all that additional intel. I'll leave if others have questions too or comments.
Yeah, I do. First of all, it's very impressive. I like how everything is revolving around the concept of these behaviors and so integrated so well. I also love the idea of calling everybody caregivers. It's so very inclusive, and also the idea. I love a lot of different things. So a lot of comments, and also the SAGE. That's a genius idea to incorporate that from the positive intelligence as the acronym that can mean so many different things. I was recently attending a seminar on learning and development. I did hear that the idea of competency is fading away, which was surprising. I've been, hanging on to that for a long time, and sort of replaced by more actionable skills behavior. So I see that you are, moving with the trends. And very fascinated by the fact that you have worked with EDI, which is actually a Pittsburgh-based company, to create a customized 360. This is like a dream. So interesting a little bit in hearing more about it, and also your plans, whether you're going to, I understand that your content for leadership development is revolving around that. If it's going to also be integrated with the coaching, using that with the performance management, even job descriptions, is it all going to be integrated together, just like you read in the Dream HR articles?
Yes, because we already did that work with the behaviors. So we worked with talent acquisition and infused the language into our job descriptions, as well as talent acquisition creates interviewing guides for each job that people are interviewing for. And so we were infusing questions to help interviewers actually hire for the behaviors. So we were giving them suggestions. We had a bank of suggestions that they could, depending on what position they were hiring and how it related. And yes, it becomes infused in our language, and we are conscious because there's like, how many people what's the saturation point of how many things caregivers can actually remember? So we have our mission, we have our vision, we have our values. Now we have our behaviors. Then we have healing commitments. Then we have our clinical excellence also has a list of here's how we get zero harm and keep people safe. So we're very conscious and make sure we connect in with these other entities to be sure that we're all still speaking the same language as well. And our ELT will use, once we get the slide, Marcom will come up with this really beautiful graphic and it will look amazing. So I can't wait to see what they come up with. But they will begin their speeches or their discussions with in our organization also using it. So it gets reinforced in many parts of the organization.
You sound so excited about it, and I'm so
excited.
happy to see that.
Really fun.
Thank you for sharing.
Coaching is a red thread for us throughout everything we do. So coaching doesn't evolve with us. We feel like we evolve with coaching because we have an internal coaching course that we actually certify coaches internally. So we have Intermountain certified coaches, and it puts all of our coaches on a path for ICF. They have to complete the path. We get them 75% there. And then if they want to, and if their departments want to pay for the ICF, then we are in the process of getting our internal process, our internal coaching course certified with ICF. We've been hiring external, so we've used Invite Change. We have used the NCL coaching, Hogan. We've partnered, and it's just we're always looking for cost efficiencies. And the coaching, we are coaching rolls up through me. And so it's a part of leadership development in everything we do. And we've actually created a course that all leaders we don't require any of it's one of our foundational courses. We don't require any of their courses. And we find people want to do it because it's not required. But we have an Empowering Conversations course that's foundational. It's 3 hours, it's virtual, where we actually teach them our coach approach and how to have conversations that are empowering versus crucial conversations, which really focuses on it more, how do you have those difficult conversations, yet there's still kind of this element of not really seeing people as whole, resourceful, capable, and creative, seeing people almost as a problem and taking care of the problem. And Empowering Conversations flips that, kind of like the Empowerment Dynamic by David Emerald. That's a foundational book for us. How do we flip them from victim to creator? And Empowering Conversations is based on our coach approach to make that flip from victim to creator. And so we very much, it's taken us a while, but it is infused in our culture now. And coaching is not it's not a punishment. We're very careful that people do not receive coaching who need help with their leaders. It's those that are actually thriving, and it's a really good thing that helps them be the best leader they can be. So that's the reputation we've built within Intermountain, that coaching is a really good thing, and truly amazing, awesome, successful leaders have a coach. And it's not the problem. The problem children go to HR. So so we've infused that as well.
Impressive. Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah. I was just going to quickly follow up on that because I'm not sure if you may have answered it when Martina was asking about performance management too, with so even just thinking for those leaders, performance management, whether that's performance evaluation or talent review process, how are those leader behaviors tied there?
I wouldn't say there's a direct link with performance management, except to say that when they're on an action review, that they have direction on, if you want to know how to get better, here's the roadmap how.
Right.
And many times, especially with our newest merger with SCL Health, that's in the Colorado, Montana, Kansas areas, they used a lot of 360s to help bring data forward, and our 360s are based on our behaviors. And so then the behaviors is like, this is how you can be successful. So it's not necessarily part of the conversation, part of the solution with that we help them gather data and how to improve. And then the performance conversations are always had with the HR business partners and whoever their manager is, so that they can be clear about what was going on, and then how can we best help you to be successful to move forward. We try not to make it seem like it's the principal's office, but it is that when it's a performance conversation. And that's handled all through. We roll up through HR. So leadership development does sit under HR, but we aren't part of the performance conversations, just the solution, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. I'm curious, just because we've done, evolutions over long spans of time, but we went from when we were much smaller, a competency model overall that I think it was very telling when I came into the organization. I had my first performance evaluation, and like half of what I was evaluated on were these competencies that I had never seen in my in my time there yet, and thought, oh, I don't even know what these mean, let alone like, am I meeting them or not? And then we made a switch. Yikes, probably 10 years ago. I remember when the email went out to the organization, and we changed to our values. So our evaluation for leaders and for staff is split kind of 50-50, weighted between our behaviors tied to the values, and then our goals and responsibilities are the other half. And I think that because of our size and the complexity of roles, but that's been kind of a starting point, and we rely on leaders to maybe fill in some of the gaps of what do those behaviors look like based on what you do. And it's just interesting to think, again, how do we continue to evolve? Because that's not, the tie isn't there necessarily right now from the behaviors to, at least as firmly, I think, as it would be helpful maybe to make that alignment. So I was just curious if that is part of how you evaluate those individuals.
Yeah, and we're actually upgrading our leadership index questions actually as we speak. It's like do our leadership index questions still hit the mark? And we found some gaps that we needed, especially in we're very driving business minded from a leadership perspective, and there were some questions in there that had been missing. So we were just upgrading a few things, and we'll also there's the overlay, there's the framework of the behaviors, and then the expectations. And so we create solutions around those data points, and so we'll be aligning also with our and we work very closely with our voice survey team. We call it the caregiver experience team, and then our behaviors are reflected in the voice survey for the leadership questions as well, and the leadership index. So there's a complement, and then we can base some data on that as well. Are their leadership index scores staying the same? Are they improving? I mean, sometimes they're 100%. So have they stayed at 100% or improving? And it's data for us with our programs and whenever they interface with leadership development solutions.
Very interesting. And Robin, I don't know if you would be open to sharing, totally understand. If not, I'd be curious of what those questions are, the leadership index questions that you use in the survey. Similarly, we have different dimensions that we include in our engagement survey. But when I think, and I think in totality, it absolutely serves up a picture of that leader's effectiveness, right? But we have a couple of key questions on, we even ask about frequency of things like one-on-one touch bases, because we see a correlation there, right?
That's one of ours.
Yeah, and some of those, I'm just curious. I think we sort of scratched the surface maybe with some of those elements, but maybe could go a little bit deeper to see in the absence of not doing a 360 assessment on every leader, right? Or necessarily seeing that picture in a performance evaluation too. Interesting.
Yeah, and if we haven't always been closely linked to our caregiver engagement scores, and it's nice that over the last 5 years we have aligned nicely.
Mhm.
And it's been because there's, I don't know about y'all, but our organization gets survey fatigue quickly.
We have a survey calendar alone now that gets
Yeah.
like vetted everywhere. Like this is what happens here and here and here, and these shall not overlap. And but it's like you constantly have the next one to do.
You should say that because before we merged, we could just send something out maybe to the alumni of our executive development team or whatever. So I sent a needs assessment out to my executive development team, and it was seriously like within 6 minutes, it was like the Black Hawk helicopters coming from everywhere, the police sirens coming from every corner. It's like, you cannot issue a survey while the voice survey is going on. And like, oh, sorry.
Whoops, sorry. I know. Isn't that, it's amazing. I know.
I get it.
I know. And it's always interesting to kind of do those types of needs assessment surveys too, because many of you probably do similar to us of like, we're not only trying to gauge, are there gaps, right? But we're also trying to gauge, do they even know what's available to them today? And so we're kind of playing this game of like, all right, let's see their awareness of or what their interest is in certain topics, and that will even help us communicate those better to our leaders. But a lot of times they don't know what they don't know anyway, of like, here's what I can't pinpoint and tell you what I need. It's like, how do we find those right ways to assess and identify those needs? And so I've been really curious to hear about that research you've done on how you can see the leaders who are effective and what they do. And I think that brings a lot of credibility to what you're doing as well, because it gives it just that clout. We did our research and here's what it said. So if you want to excel here, here's how to do it.
Yeah, it really does help tell the story. And I thought, I was talking to our HR vice president, who she's been through all of my programs. She's been through Women in Leadership. She's been through Leading Through Executive Development Program, everything. And she was talking about the behaviors like, she's like, well, we really need to find what good leaders do. And it's like, do you know the history behind the
You're like, well, we've done that.
I'm telling her all of this. I'm like, Marguerite Stamps, who's our chief learning officer, is your peer on HLT. I'm like, well,
yeah.
Let me tell you. And then all of a sudden, because she was bringing me all this data back from facilities that she'd been visiting, we should really be capturing this. Like, we actually have. I'm like, we have not got this word out.
It's like the old like tell them again, tell them what you told them. Like, just keep telling them.
I'm more than happy to share those questions. I just cannot get my hands on them immediately right now. It's like, finding out where I filed those. And I know Marguerite's taking point in adjusting the newest ones. I'm actually really excited to see what she and our team are coming up with. But I'm happy to share those. I'll send them to Jen, maybe to send out to the group once I get my hands on them. There's 10. It's threaded throughout it, so people don't know, oh, this is evaluating your leader. However, one thing the caregiver experience team upgraded the survey is people were getting confused as to who the question was referring to, because there's their immediate leader, then their senior leadership, and then there's their matrix, then there's their dyad partner. So they have figured out how to auto-populate the manager name in there. So it's like, this question is referring to this name. So my team would see, you're having regular check-ins with Robin Betts, and they would mark accordingly. So that's been useful, so we could clean up the data as well. And I think they got it to automate that way through Qualtrics somehow. I'm not sure how they did it. It's been really useful.
That's helpful to know. We're getting ready to launch with Qualtrics. And so I will make a mental note of that, because we're kicking off here in a couple of weeks. Thank you for that.
We've really enjoyed. And when we ended up hiring one of the consultants,
whoops.
We had the director of caregiver experience come open, and he raised his hand. He'd been working with us for a few years, and he's like, hey, I'm really interested in that job. We're like, well, you're welcome please apply. And he got it. So it's really nice having him because he has all this back end knowledge of Qualtrics also that who knew we could do that.
That's awesome. Well, I may tap you to connect with him at some point if that's okay as well.
Yeah, happy to connect them. Yeah, and I'll connect him with Matt Turner, who's in charge of all of that. And Matt's always more than happy to talk with anyone and how they're making it work. And he's a great data collection partner. We kind of, I feel like we've struggled truly collecting great data for leadership development for us, and Matt's been a really great partner in helping us language things with a valid, reliable way in that we can actually take the information and make it actionable. So he's been a great partner.
That's great. Small group today, but great discussion and awesome presentation, Robin. Thank you so much.
Someone else? I'm so sorry. Have I taken up all the? Was there someone else presenting?
No, it was just you.
Oh, okay.
You're the main event.
Well, I'm going to miss y'all so much because of our financial headwinds. Intermountain has had to sever several memberships, and this is one of them. And I'm so sad because I've found so much value in interfacing with all of you. So please still keep my information and reach out anytime. We're still best friends, and I would love to hear from you, and just please don't hesitate. So love to still continue to partner and grow together.
Thank you so much, Robin. We're going to miss you all too. Hopefully we'll see you back at some point. Right?
I hope so. Yeah.
We get it.
Hopefully the financial headwinds slow down over the next
start to shift. Yeah.
5 to 7 years, what they're projecting.
Hoping.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, anything else, Jen or Malia, before we wrap up, or the rest of the group? Anything you want to talk through before we wrap up?
Yeah, questions from the group, or I always love to end on challenges, even though.
No, that was an awesome presentation. I really appreciate the information, Robin.
Well, thank you. There's, I will send you these articles. I was trying to get my hands on them. They were really fascinating. You've probably read them, but it's that shift from competency to, upgrading roles. And Netflix and Airbnb have really interesting, as they've shifted, like Airbnbs are, they're very catchy. It's like throw up elephants and alligators. And it's like, you always want to have a clean facility, make sure it's not riddled with critters, and making sure you're always paying attention to the elephant in the room but it's these short, pithy things that kind of got our brains working because we want to come up with pithy things for each of the SAGE elements. And it was kind of fascinating and fun to hear from it. So I'll send those articles as well. I thought I'll just put them in the chat. And for some reason I couldn't get my hands on them this morning. We'll end. I'll be like, there they are. So
that's how it always goes.
So I'll send those. They were fascinating. So.
Awesome.
Thanks for that.
Well, nothing else from us, at least from the NCHL side. So.
Okay. Well, Robin, please take care, and we'll take you up on keeping in touch. Please, same goes for us. So, and we'll see the rest of you next month, hopefully.
That's great.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you all.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.